Yeah,
Yeah.
where do I look in the camera?
Okay. So, $4.1 billion of CSR funds in India. Yet, there is no AI that can handle this. This is the journey of a founder who went all solo and found the opportunity and built something phenomenal out of it. Presenting Ayush Bagga, the founder of iAmpact. Thank you, Ayush, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, firstly, we would like to know about what iAmpact is, what do you do, how did you get this idea from, and why did you start it?
The idea simply came from a gap, the gap that you rightly mentioned right before you asked me this question. The gap that it's uh, it's a multi-billion dollar accountable fund that is floating around in a country which needs funding towards social and environmental causes, and still there is no regulation. I mean, there is a regulation from the government, but there is no regulation from technology that comes in and uh, creates the right flow of that fund. So that was one gap. And the interesting part why AI in it, especially, is because it's not just about that multi-billion dollar accountable fund. It's also about various type of stakeholders that we're dealing with in this sector. We're dealing with corporates who are funding. We're dealing with implementation agencies who are doing on-ground implementation. We're dealing with beneficiaries who are the the entire reason why all of this is in place. So many stakeholders, such a big, large fund. Of course, it needs something, a technology which is varied in itself, which can think, which has algorithms in place. So hence AI, hence I am.
So Ayush, starting with your journey, we know that you were a consultant first. Like, what was your motivation and aim behind consultancy, and why did you actually quit consultancy and opened your own startup? Like, consultancy is comparatively a comfortable world, they say. So, is this actually true?
Consulting is a comfortable word, you say?
Yes,
Um,
it's a secure job.
Not really. So okay, I'll beg to differ there. First, I'll answer your first question. Why consulting? While I was in my college, just like how you guys are today, I had my inclination towards consulting because I used to look at a lot of check out these podcasts. I used to see a lot of these videos where consultants used to make a difference in the world. Now, everything else apart, there's a fancy lifestyle. There's a busy lifestyle that consultants have, but at the end of the day, they make a difference in the world through whatever means, and that's what I loved. It was a dream to be a consultant. But right after college, uh, I, with a few folks of mine, we started a startup because that's what the everyone was doing, and then we also found a problem and we started it. Little did we know that startup means a lot of things. Handling a business, startup is just a fancy word for businesses itself, right? At the end of the day, so we found out so many new things about um, running a business and those gaps and all those things. But that all those things apart, I still had my dream towards consulting, which I pursued after 2.5 years of after my startup. KPMG spent half a decade over there working on some of the greatest deals, M&A and mergers and acquisition deals that we see today. Worked on Series C, Series D startup investments and their due diligences. Loved the life that I spent there in that half a decade. That's what I dreamt of, and that's what I live. So, again, like to answer in one go for your question, consultants make a difference in the world, definitely. And that's what pulled me towards consulting. That's part of the first answer, first question. Second question, you asked me, why did I quit consulting at the end? See, this is what I personally believed back then, and even today I believe consulting is a great first move after you're done with your studies, maybe your undergrad or uh, a master's, because it shows you a different kind of a world. What you see in college, what you see while you're living at home, are things that are always surrounded by you always, since birth. But consulting shows you a completely different world altogether. It shows you how large corporates, how large conglomerates, how large investors how large startups actually work. So it's a great first stint if you want to really understand how the world works. Even better than MBA, I'd say. But however, consulting, apart from giving you so much knowledge, also has a beautiful place in this world, which is it's a junction. And I've always believed that consulting is a junction. And I'll tell you why I believe so. It's because when you are a consultant, every day, and I'm repeating myself, every day you deal with different kind of stakeholders. You're dealing with clients who are, in my case, were private equity investors. You're dealing with other stakeholders who are, in my experience, were Series C, Series D founders of some of the large startups that are unicorn today. You're dealing with large corporate teams. You're dealing with the consulting heads who are partners of your organization. You're dealing with some of the brightest minds in the country. So when you deal with so many stakeholders, a lot of new channels open up for you. And that's where I'm coming back to why consulting is a junction. A lot of channels open for you. We see, and I'll give you some examples. Um, we see teams mostly, and these are all facts. You can also check it. VC teams mostly comes from consulting backgrounds, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, or even Big Four for that matter. We see founders, some of the largest founders, the best founders coming from consulting backgrounds. Um, Bombay Shaving is one of the most popular examples. I just quote that one. We see some of the leaders, the CXOs coming from consulting background. To name a few, Nestle, you can just go and check out Nestle. Mostly in India specifically has folks in the leadership who come from consulting. And Nestle is one of the FMCG examples, but we have numerous others. So what does it tell us? It tells us that consulting opens up different channels for you. It could be investor, it could be private equity, VC in investors, it could be family offices in investment, it could be you can go on and become founders, you can go on and become leaders at existing large corporates, you can go on and become what consultants like Ankur Warikoo for that matter. Yeah, who's using those learnings to teach others. Right. So consider consulting as a junction. It opens up all of those channels, a junction with even more than 4 channels. It opens so many channels for you, then you can decide what to do in life.
So Ayush, as a student myself who is looking forward to doing to having a good consultancy career, what are the skills or what are the things that I should personally focus on in developing myself? Also for our viewers, since they are mostly students, I would want you to give some advice to them on how should they in college start their consultancy journey.
Consulting, we might not want to believe it, but one of the greatest factors why you get selected as a consultant, why you get to go into the consulting life is a lot to do with how you present yourself. And I'm not saying how you dress up, or partially that's also one of the ways, one of the parameters that knowingly, unknowingly we face as consultants. But how you present yourself, as in how do you see, analyze, and represent a problem? Maybe not a solution to a problem, but just a problem, right? And how do you present yourself in front of very senior stakeholders? Because as consultants, you will often find yourself in positions where you're working with super senior stakeholders of the industry. You're suddenly working with Mr. Anand Mahindra for that matter on a project. And you'll say, I don't have that experience, but you have to exude that confidence, that presentation as a consultant, that does the cut for you. That's one. Number two, you have to always go into the depth of understanding of whichever field that you're working in. One downside of consulting is you can be put in any field whatsoever in the initial few years. You might not even know how mining works, or how upstream or downstream mining works, but you'll need to go do that research. You need to go with that first principle mindset. You have to go down and understand each and everything. So those are some of the skills that you need to have. Definitely.
So I get it. Like consultancy is being thrown into an oblivion and trying to figure your way out of it. but I feel startup is also very similar in that kind of way. And you yourself are a startup founder, so what are the problems that you faced initially, like transitioning from consultancy to startup? And the worlds are like very very different from each other. So what are the major problems that you faced when you launched your own startup?
A lot of them, to be honest, a lot of them. Thankfully, I had that consulting background myself, so it helped me a little bit. But consulting and startups and being a founder has one major difference, which you need to also unlearn while you're transitioning into being a founder, which is consulting gives you loads of resources behind you, a lot of good money, a lot of good people, a lot of good tools, a lot of good access to places, which is not possible as a founder. Right? You can be a McKinsey or a KPMG or whatever Deloitte consultant one day, and you'll get invited to so many events every day that you choose to refuse a few. But as founders, you have to find your own way. So, number one challenge is unlearning that the fact that you don't have the world by yourself for yourself. You're not sitting on that elephant anymore. You have to get down and get your hands dirty and get your ears to the ground and talk to everyone who can or who is influencing your business and get things working for yourself.
That's great, Ayush. So, of all the problems in the world, why did you choose CSR? And what pulled you into the space specifically?
That's an interesting one. I'll tell you, I did not choose CSR, and I'll be very honest. I chose the fundamental logic behind what's happening in CSR. And that's where I spent close to 2.5, 3 years in doing my own research. The research that I was doing um, at the back end was on how do we capture social and climate data from source. That's a major gap. If you go and learn about the climate change for that matter, you realize that the kind of data that we're pulling every day, the climate data, the environment data, is is flawed in some or the other sense. There are data components that are correct. There are a lot of data components that are completely flawed. That's because the techniques, the technologies that we are using to capture that data are age old, are very obsolete in themselves. So I'm taking a back step for answering you in order to answer this question. My research was on the right techniques, tools to capture the right social and climatic data. Step two, analyze that data in the most um, comprehensive form, and then report that data. The three pillars is what I've spent 3 years in building, and algorithms that connect these three pillars. Now, one of the key use cases of these three pillars is CSR. Um, I did not choose that I'll only work for CSR. The three pillars, the use cases of these three pillars are CSR, ESG, sustainable supply chains, carbon trading, carbon offsetting, others. So CSR is the first step that I've taken. Because the first thing that I mentioned, it is a major gap in India right now that can be solved very well through artificial intelligence, and that's what I'm trying to solve as a problem. But this is just phase one. Phase two would be to use the same algorithm, to use the same foundation for solving another problem, which is environmental problem, and then carbon later.
So, we understand the carbon problem was the major problem, but how did actually AI come into play? Like in today's world, Claude doing so many things, Anthropic building crazy tools, OpenAI, Gemini, Google working on massive AI tools. How does the AI comes in iAmpact, and what does it actually do in iAmpact?
That's an interesting one. iAmpact. I'll just correct you a little. AI did not come into iAmpact later. iAmpact is a native AI platform. So that's the difference when let's say, and I'll just take an example for that matter. When a large company like Lego integrates AI into their model, that's AI coming into business. But we have a lot of platforms like Anthropic for that matter, or Emergent from India is one good example, where the businesses are built on AI itself. So it's a native AI business in itself, where the entire design of the business, the entire design of the business model is also built on artificial intelligence itself. Where did it come from? Good question. See, wherever there is so much fragmentation of data, people, monetary values, currency, uh, there is definitely a need of AI, because we, more than um, just connecting them, we need the right algorithms to get the best information out of all of these different components. And the best way to do it is to use artificial intelligence, because us humans are very intelligent. But the problem with us humans is we have human memory. We don't have institutional memory. AI brings institutional memory in the game with its own analytical skills. And that does the magic in fragmented markets like what we are doing today in climate and social cycle. It brings all of these components in one place, analyzes them, and then gives us a result, a recommendation for tomorrow or a forecast.
That's great. So Ayush, impact is such a human thing, like a kid gaining confidence, a family becoming self-sufficient. So how does algorithm even begin in measuring that?
Ah, okay. Interesting one. Well, that's also one thing that we as founders in the impact industry always have to keep in mind, because impact, social impact or climate impact, are are the functions that works with human touch, right? It's not like you're another supply chain function which can we work in autonomous driving. You can have trucks that drive themselves. You don't need drivers for it. But impact, be it social impact or climate impact, needs a human touch, because it's at the end of the day affecting humans or animals itself. Um, Hence, we always keep it in our mind that whatever we build, that whatever technology we build, is a great enabler for humans. Is not a force fit technology to replace humans. And I'll just give a quick short example. When we're talking about, let's say we're talking about supporting the famine affected farmers of Maharashtra, we can't have a mobile app built for those farmers and give them mobile app, ask them to download it and start using it, so that they have a good forecast of how their land will work if they start growing sugarcane for that. We can't have that. That's force fitting technology. Sitting in our office thinking that this will solve the world, this will solve for agriculture problems. Instead, we need to build technologies that are enablers. We need to build, and this is a live example that I just gave you. We are actually using geospatial data to understand the soil quality, air quality, to understand how can we improve the richness of organic material in the soil in Maharashtra, and that will further help these farmers. But we can't have farmers as a users of these tools. So we have administrative people um, who are using these technologies to further help the farmers. At the end of the day, it's human talking to a human, but these technologies are there to enable them even better for with better data and information.
Wow, that's great. Like, I understand that when we start a startup, there are a lot of problems coming up. Things break down. We sometimes even feel to quit everything and run away. But every founder has a motivation behind it. Every founder has a drive behind it to continue. That's their startup to build towards their goal. What was your motivation when you started, and how do you handle things when they start breaking down?
I always so my I only have I don't rely on motivation. I'll be very honest with you. I do not at all rely on motivation. One motivation of starting iAmpact was my inclination towards sustainability uh, in life since the very beginning itself. Uh, since the time that I remember. So that was the motivation, but that's where I drew the line. That's where I stopped being driven by motivation. I am driven by discipline. I'm driven by um, input that leads to an outcome or output later, more than motivation or encouragement in my life, to be honest. And that's what founders need to do. You will find yourself more than often in a place where you're not motivated, or you've got so many no's that your motivation dies down. So hence you have to just part away from motivation. You don't have to be driven or reliant on motivation.
Great. So where is impact headed? right now? And what does AI actually change about how India does social good? And like, from what's the plan of iAmpact 5 years from now? Where do you see your company?
Thank you for the question about impact. This is very close to me. This is something that I think of while I'm sleeping. This is what I think of when I'm waking up. So, where is it headed? It is headed to create that big difference that it is built for. Today, in the social sector through CSR in India, CSR in UAE, parts of UAE. Tomorrow, it will use the same algorithms, same technologies to solve for environmental problems, which are, by the way, all of us collectively know is one big problem the world is facing together. So that's the beauty of environmental problem. And I know it's ironic what I say is that all of us together are dealing with it at one point. So tomorrow it will solve for environment, and that's where I see that impact being created.
Wow, wonderful. Now, a question from all the student founders out there. AI is doing crazy in today's world. So, how can we as students or we as future entrepreneurs utilize AI or to build something of our own? Like a advice from a senior founder, or someone who has been in this field for a decade. How can students who are looking forward to build a startup do their own startup right now with help of AI and today's infrastructure?
First of all, understand where have we come from, where are we today, and where are we heading tomorrow. And I'll tell you why I'm saying so. It's because yesterday, building a product was a big deal. Today, building a product is relatively easier. And by product, I mean any solution, any technology solution, or any solution for that matter. Tomorrow, building a product would not be even in question because anyone would be able to build product in seconds, or there won't be products for that matter. We don't know. So you need to understand in an era of artificial intelligence coming with such fast pace, how do you find your humanness in it? Your humanness is still in building relations. Your humanness is still in asking those right questions. Your humanness is still in creating that distribution channel that AI cannot build. And by distribution channel, I mean, let's say if you're building, let's not talk about softwares, it's pretty easy, but let's say you're building a hardware today. The tomorrow, the USP would not be in building that hardware. USP would be in distributing that hardware, making sure that the hardware is reaching its user, is the user is able to discover that hardware. It could be your headphones for that matter. I'm just taking an example that students use the most, headphones. So if you're making a headphone today, your problem would not be to build a headphone. Your problem would be to make sure that the headphone is eventually reaching the user or the buyer. So that's where you need to start thinking that distribution channel, that relationship, that presence in on Earth is what you need to think of as a human. Rest everything AI will take care of.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I just read this quote from Bill Gates that was 20 years ago that don't give me the talk, give me the code. And just a few months back, the founder of Linux changed this quote. He said, don't give me the code, give me the talk. Like, that's the shift that AI is bringing in today's world. Like, that's fantastic. As a student founder myself, when I try to integrate AI from everything like Google anti-gravity, Cloud Code, and everything is so crazy out there. And it was wonderful getting advice from you on all of these things. With that, I'd like to conclude our podcast and thank you so much for coming out here and giving us your time, Ayush.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. And
For giving me this opportunity to talk. I love doing it. That's all.
thank you.
Thank you. So, this was our second episode of the 180 Perspective from Decks to Dialogues. For more such meaningful conversations and for more such crazy episodes, do follow us on YouTube and Instagram. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.